This is Steve with Rocky Mountain ATV MC, and today I'm going to show you how to replace the fuel pump on this YZ250FX. Dirt bikes are exposed to, well, dirt, and every time you fill your fuel tank, you have the potential of getting dirt in there. Yamaha recommends inspecting and cleaning your fuel tank and fuel pump every 3 races or 300 miles. So today I'm going to show you how to replace the fuel pump on this 2017 YZ250FX. These procedures also apply to YZ and WR models with fuel injection. To do this job, you're going to need some basic hand tools, a new OEM fuel pump, rags, safety glasses, and a copy of your OEM service manual for more information, proper procedures, and specs. First, let's start by removing the seat, airbox lid, and shrouds. And always remember to keep yourself organized so that it makes it easier for reassembly. Next, let's disconnect the battery. If you've got a rubber plug, go ahead and remove your fuel vent hose and replace it with the plug. I like to do this just so that when I'm moving the fuel tank around, I'm less likely to spill fuel. Now let's go ahead and remove the rear bolt on the fuel tank. Now lift your fuel tank up so that you can gain access to your electrical connectors and fuel line. We'll go ahead and disconnect the electrical connectors. Now let's remove the fuel line. First we need to remove the safety clip, then we can remove the fuel connector. Now I'm using these plugs from Yamaha so that I don't get any contaminants inside my fuel lines, but use what's suitable that works for you. And now remove the fuel tank. Now let's drain the fuel out of the fuel tank. Grab a gas can and a funnel and we'll just dump it in that. When doing this job, always do it in a well-ventilated area. Use your rags to clean up any fuel that you may have spilled. After you've drained the fuel, put your tank in a well-ventilated area and let it dry out. Now that we've let the fuel tank sit out for about 30 minutes, let's go ahead and put the fuel cap back onto it and we'll flip it over and remove the fuel pump. Grab your 4mm Allen and we want to break these loose in a crisscross pattern. Now you can see here that the fuel pump is oriented in a certain way. Sometimes it's easiest just to make a mark on the fuel tank and your mount plate just so that when you reassembly it's in the right place. Go ahead and remove the mount plate and the fuel pump. Now the fuel filter on these things are not replaceable. As far as I know of, they may change that in the future, but they're not replaceable, so you just have to replace the whole fuel pump. But if you remove a cover on it, you can see in here the fuel filter. This is on the new one, and this is on the old one. As you can see, it gets extremely dirty. Now let's remove the O-ring off the old fuel pump and put it on the new fuel pump. If you see any damage or anything like that, just go ahead and replace it. Okay, now on the fuel tank, this would be a good time to use some contact cleaner and clean out any residual dirt or stuff in the fuel tank along with the sealing surface of the fuel pump. Now if you have compressed air, you can go ahead and blow it out as well. Make sure to wipe off the mounting plate as well. Now let's take the new fuel pump and we'll place it inside the fuel tank. And the mounting plate. We'll line up our marks and install our screws. Now let's torque the bolts to 34.8 inch-pounds or 2.9 foot-pounds. And you want to do this in a crisscross pattern. Now let's install the fuel tank back on the bike and reconnect our fuel line and electrical connectors. Make sure to install your retaining clip. Now I like to use a little dielectric grease on all my electrical connectors. It just helps with keeping water out and less likely to have an electrical problem. Now set the tank down into the frame. Now let's install the rear fuel tank bolt. Now let's reconnect the battery. Now let's remove the fuel tank gas cap. Now before we add fuel to the fuel tank, I want to talk about an accessory that you need to get. Here at Rocky Mountain ATV MC, we offer a variety of these screens that you can insert into your fuel tank, and what that's going to do is it's going to catch any debris that may get into your fuel tank so that it keeps it out of your fuel pump. They're definitely worth having, and they just fit directly in your tank, so you just squish it together like so, and it'll fit nice and tight in there, and then take your fuel cap and it'll just fit right over top of it. Now when you remove your fuel cap, it just stays there, and when you add fuel, it filtrates the fuel. Now let's remove the plug on our fuel cap and replace it with our vent hose and install our fuel cap. Now at this point, you want to let the fuel tank sit for about 15 minutes, and then you can inspect around the fuel pump to see if it's leaking at all. Now let's start the bike to make sure that it's working correctly. Do another quick inspection. And now let's install the shrouds, airbox cover, and seat. And that's it. That's all there is to replacing the fuel pump on your YZ250FX. For more parts, apparel, and accessories, come check us out at RockyMountainATVMC.com. And if you like what you've seen today, subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is Steve. We'll catch you next time.